Hey everyone, Pastor George here with today's Bible study recap. And today in Bible study, we looked at First John chapter 3, verses 11 through 24. So the second part of First John 3. And really, I think the thing to focus on here is what is the story of the world? Because that's actually where John starts off this little section we read. So he's focusing on the importance of loving one another. And this is the big commandment, right? This is one of the major themes of the Gospel of John. He brings us up in his letters, so it's a major theme again. So it's again, you're going to see this pop up for the rest of the study as you've seen it pop up for the whole thing since we started. So the reason I ask what's the story of the world is you'll notice that John likes to contrast the world with God, right? So unrighteous versus righteous, sin versus purity, all that stuff. So what is the story of the world? Well, you'll see that John points us to the beginning of the Old Testament in Genesis with Cain and Abel. And he points this out, and this is important because it's between brothers. So, Adam and Eve were created by God, but Cain and Abel share a special relationship that didn't exist with Adam and Eve, which is that they are brothers with each other. And this is important because John is big at setting up the family, the church, as brothers. And so being able to love your brother, Jesus does this in the commandments. So the idea of Cain and Abel kind of being the first to live into the reality of what a brother is or whatever, it says something. And the world, right, the story of the world as John presents it is one of violence and betrayal. And this is present in Cain and Abel, right, where Cain kills Abel. And John sets this up as the opposite of what should be happening in the church, right? We are supposed to love each other, so we're not supposed to be acting like Cain and Abel. And then he says this, let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and truth. So again, there's always this important tension in Christianity, right? Is that we are made just by faith, but we aren't just like completely fine if we don't do anything, right? We have to actually have works or fruit that show that we have faith. They're not justified by those things, but it's important that we do them in order to understand that we have faith. And so John is bringing out that tension quite a bit here. He says that whenever our hearts condemn us, important thing to think about, this is in verse 19, God is greater than our heart and he knows everything. So the point is that we have assurance here because we're going to think that we are sinners, that we can't be saved, but we know the truth about who God is. We know that he's merciful. We know that he gives us grace. And so we understand that God is greater than our heart. That's important to think about. And of course, John ends by again emphasizing the importance of following commandments. The idea here is the greatest commandment that Jesus gives, and or the new commandment, I should say, that Jesus gives. And it's a loving your brother as yourself. And you'll notice that he actually uses an Old Testament formula here. He says, and this is his commandment, that we believe in the name of his son, Jesus Christ, and love one another just as he commanded us. And that's kind of a reference to the 10 Commandments. So if you remember, the 10 Commandments are broken up into 2 tablets, or kind of 2 parts. I shouldn't say tablets because everyone thinks the Charlton Heston thing, but that's not actually what they look like. But they're broken up into 2 parts. And he, in the first part, the first few commandments are all about how we love and honor God. And the last part is how we love and honor our neighbor. So the new commandment functions in the same way, right? It helps us acknowledge who Christ is, and who God is, and then we do as God commanded us to. So important to remember that. All right, that's what we talked about today. I hope you guys find that interesting. I'll see you tomorrow for an episode of A New Thing. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and peace out.